my book and wax friends. Welcome to my channel. I'm Amber and I do post about bookish and home fragrance stuff, and I'm so happy to have you here today. Welcome and happy Thanksgiving. This is my Thanksgiving book tag. I originally saw Hannah from Bookables post this tag. I'm not sure who originally created it, but I saw hers and I thought it would be a fun one to do myself. So let's jump into it. Most of the books I do not have on me, so I will post a graphic of the book up here for you. But let's go. Number one, and I will post what the question, what the prompt is down below as well for you. So number one is bread. What book is purely fluff and has no real plot line? So with that one, I was thinking more of a novella, because usually those, there's not a ton of things that are going on in, because they are novellas and they're kind of like a continuation of the original stories for a lot of them. So I chose Mysteries of Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson, which is the sequel. And I do have the first book. Sorcery of Thorns is the original book, and the Mysteries of Thorn Manor is a continuation, a little like snippet into their lives after the original book. And I loved it. It was so cute, but there's not a ton of stuff that goes on in it. But definitely worth reading, especially highly recommend the original book. If you've read that one and loved it, definitely pick up the novella. Okay, number two is Turkey. What book makes you want to fall asleep? So that one was kind of hard. There have been books that have bored me. So I was looking through my past TBR, or the books that I have read that is on my Goodreads, and came across this one. It's called Ruby Red, and it's by Kirsten Gear, I think is how you pronounce her name. And it is a translation, actually. I don't remember who translated it. But I think from German, maybe Swedish. I'm not sure exactly, but it's a sci-fi, like time travel type book. And there's just, even though that kind of sounds exciting, not a ton of stuff like went on in it. I was bored, I remember, and it's been a few years since I've read it. It is a series. I think it's a trilogy, but I didn't even bother continuing it because the first one dragged for me. So that is what I have to go with for that one. Then the third prompt is Gravy. What book makes the whole series worth reading? That's another one where I could choose a bunch of different ones, but I went with Cassandra Clare's Clockwork Princess, which is the third book in her Infernal Devices series. If there's any of her books, series that have to do with shadow hunters that I absolutely recommend, it is the Infernal Devices series. If you read any, that's the trilogy I absolutely recommend. It's the one that I will reread. Her others I have enjoyed. And for a while there, I was really invested in the whole Shadowhunter saga. I've kind of gotten over the other ones, but those I will never get over. They're so good. So Clockwork Princess is the third book. So you definitely need to read the other two first before you read the third one. Highly, highly recommend the whole trilogy. First book's called Clockwork Angel, and then Clockwork Prince, and then Clockwork Princess. So go pick those up for sure. And you don't need to understand, you don't need to have read like Mortal Instruments, that sort of thing, to understand what's going on in those books. So yeah, definitely read them. Okay, number four is Stuffing. What book is stuffed full of action scenes? This is another one I could go with quite a few different ones. I decided to choose Kingdom of Ash, which is the seventh and final book in Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass series, and it being the final book, ton of action. It's like nonstop things are happening in that book. And so, yeah, that is another series that I do feel like is a really good series. It starts out slow. The first couple of books take a while to get into, but I would suggest keep going. They are worth the investment, and there's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of character growth, and yeah, it's a great series. Not like an all-time favorite series for me, but I did really enjoy them, and I was very, very invested in the characters by the final book. So, okay, the next one is Mashed Potatoes. What book looked good and then wasn't? So this one I didn't have to look too far to figure out which one I wanted to put for that one. It's one that I read in the month of September, and that is Love at First Book. The premise of it is about a girl who's a librarian, and she gets called to be an assistant for one of her favorite childhood authors who lives in Ireland. So she moves to Ireland, and it's a romance. So her author's son is involved in it, and anyway, so it looked really good, and it ended up being a kind of a disappointment for me. I did finish it, but the romance in it, the male main character, he just wasn't my cup of tea, and so it was a disappointment for me. So I was sad because it looked like it would be a good premise. Oh, and did I say, so Love at First Book by Jen McKinley is the author's name. Okay, Cranberries. What book has the sweetest romance? So I love a good, like, sweet, just feel-good romance. I decided to choose Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. I love the romance in this. The male main character was just the sweetest, kindest type of guy, and yeah, I was definitely rooting for them to get together by the end. So highly recommend that one. Okay, and then number 7 was Corn. What's the corniest book you've ever read? That was kind of hard. I decided to choose Fairy Tale by Danielle Steele. I read it back in March or so, and it was a book that my sweet husband actually got me for my birthday, and I love him, and I appreciate that he bought me books. And it was okay. It was very predictable. It was kind of a Cinderella retelling, but there were, set in modern day times, there were just some things. It was like insta romance. There wasn't any sort of build up between her and the man she ends up with at all. It was like from one sentence to the other, at almost the end of the book, then she's like, oh, I love him, type of thing. So to me, it was on the corny side. Okay, then 8 is Green Beans. What book is too long and needs to be shortened? Now, this book really isn't very long, but the way it's written, for me, I felt like paragraphs needed to be shortened, and that is Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury, which is a classic Halloween type book. He is very verbose. His descriptions about things that don't matter really took me out of the overall story. He wanted to describe every little detail of things that really didn't have anything to do with the plot of the story. And I felt like those could have been cut down quite a bit because there was a lot of them. And so for that reason, I felt like that was a good choice for this question. So yes, Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. And then 9, Pumpkin Pie. What book have you read to get out of a reading slump? I don't know when my last reading slump was, but I can tell you the book and book series that ended up the most recently, like making me obsessed, is I have the first book right here. Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I love this series so much. It is my most recent 5-star trilogy. And this is the first book, so obviously it's the one that got me like obsessed over a book story. So this is the one I have to choose. So yes, Stephanie Garber's Once Upon a Broken Heart is the one that was definitely pumpkin pie for me. Okay, and then the final question doesn't have to do with books, actually. It is, what is your favorite Thanksgiving food you would steal from the table if you were a dog or a cat? And that for me would have to be probably the candied yams I make, probably, or the cheesy potatoes I make. It's hard to choose between the two, but I feel like candied yams is more of a specific to Thanksgiving, although I do make it for Christmas too, but it's more specific to Thanksgiving, and so I would probably choose that one. I mash the yams, and then I put cranberries in it, and then put brown sugar and then marshmallows on top and bake it, and it's so delicious. It's so good. So if I had to choose one, it would probably be my candied yams. So there you go, you guys. That's the Thanksgiving book tag. I will tag Hannah from Bookables down in the description for you guys so you can check out her channel. She's wonderful. She has a ton of fun book content, so highly recommend her channel for sure. Let me know if you have any of answers to these questions, because I'm always curious about what people have been reading, their opinions on different books, and if there are any books I need to add to my 1,000 infinity long TBR that I have. I don't mind. I love it. And I'm always looking for more books. So thank you so much for spending some time with me. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, if you're in the US, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to you, and have a wonderful day to everybody. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, TTFN. Ta-ta for now.